At this year's 67th Annual Conference of the American Physical Society Division of Plasma Physics, a rising discussion captivated many attendees, known as cultural fusion. What ancient African knowledge can teach humans about innovation in plasma physics. The topic spread across roundtables, corridor conversations, and even late evening brainstorming gatherings. Plasma physics, the study of superheated electrical charged gas, is a backbone of fusion energy research. Unlike solids or liquids, plasma moves like a living, flowing system responding instantly to magnetic fields.
First, I have a couple questions for you. Just scream out the answer out loud, okay? When you think of ancient Egyptians, those who founded that civilization, what race comes to your mind? Is it whites, black Africans, Middle Easterners, multiracial, the Egyptian race, or aliens? I want to hear your answers out loud. Black Africans, multiracial, the Egyptian race?
During the conference, Setche Kwamu-Nana, of Cameroonian origin, an engineer, and many more in the advocacy team session indicated that she cares about representation, equity, or inclusion within the plasma physics field.
Think about all the systemic barriers that might be in your institutions, all the systemic barriers that might be in how you perform your meetings, how you recruit, how you create engagement, how you create outreach. Think about all those, because if our ancestors were building pyramids 2,000 years before Europeans started doing anything, we're not less than.
Her top-notch communication prowess and mastery of the subject, translating between cultural, social issues, and scientific environments, enable her presentation on cultural fusion, inspire both scientists and non-scientists to reflect on how identity and heritage can enrich high-tech fields like plasma physics. She lured the audience into thinking beyond traditional scientific metrics, calling for more inclusion spaces in research and innovation.
The people we've historically heralded as the founders of civilization, of math, of science, and all these great things, the Greeks, actually learned all of it from the ancient Egyptians, from the black ancient Egyptians. The people from my tribe, the Bamileke tribe, we migrated from Egypt between 600 and 900 AD, fleeing religious persecution. So that is what my grandfather meant when he said, we came from Egypt. So I'll show you a couple of the things that helped me start to form a few cracks in my belief that we couldn't possibly come from Egypt. Look at the face glyph. That is a typical black person's face. In fact, it even looks like my grandfather.
Many participants argued that ancient African cosmologies, technologies, and philosophies may provide unexpected guidance.
I heard about, but I also learned a lot about the firewalking, which was a new cultural activity that I did not know existed. And
okay.
It taught me a lot about history.
African oral traditions, especially stories about wind, fire, and flowing water, capture the essence of instability, energy exchange, and balance, key challenges in plasma confinement.
Ancient African traditions do connect to plasma physics. They aren't very distant words at all. It all started with my grandfather 12 years ago when he told me that our ancestors were from Egypt, and I did not believe him because I had not seen myself in Egypt, because nothing that we see in the media about ancient Egypt shows black people in any place of prominence. But having come to the US many decades later, studied chemical engineering, worked in the science field, and then done a lot of research on ancient Egypt. And I discovered that these words aren't different at all. Many of our African traditions very much tie into the same cultural practices that the ancient Egyptians had. And they're laced with science and physics. For example, fireworking and fire dancing, that is not witchcraft. We would demonize as witchcraft and myth, but in order to do that, you have to understand some thermophysics. In order to be able to do that consistently, you have to understand hypnotication, you have to understand material science. The same thing with our mud homes, right? People from the West came and mocked our mud homes. We built simple homes out of mud. We also built very complex structures out of mud. Some of those are still standing thousands of years later. But the West came and mocked us, said this was primitive. And then today, thousands of years later, they're like, we've discovered the building material of the future. Just this past year, a big news story, we've discovered the building material of the future. And it's mud, and it's clay, and here's why, and here's all the reasons why this is the building material of the future. Our ancestors have been knowing that for thousands of years already. But it was dismissed. Another example, the Dogon people of Mali, who knew about the Sirius B, the dwarf star, and they knew all its properties. But when a French anthropologist reported on that, they dismissed him and said, whatever you got from those people, that's myth. It doesn't work. And then centuries later, they come and discover that again. So a lot of our practices in our tradition are laced with science. They're based on scientific principles. Those were demonized and then later repackaged and commercialized and made money off of. So these two worlds are not distant at all. And I'm bridging them because we need to be aware so that we're no longer, black people don't have to be proving their worth, proving that they're qualified. Sometimes even having to prove their humanity.
Adding diversity and adding culture is an extraordinarily important thing that I think people really need to learn and need to do practice. Taking cultures and adding what you get from those cultures to each other rather than trying to homogenize. And so I agreed with everything that you were saying and have already been trying to do that in the DEIA work.
Ancient metallurgical techniques from West Africa, from iron smelting to high temperature ceramics, show mastery of extreme heat and control energy environment. The philosophy of interconnectedness found in many African cultures is also driving new conversations.
After the murder of George Floyd and the quote-unquote racial reckoning that happened after that, I went through 163 job interviews, only to watch over 90% of those jobs go to less qualified white people. And it's not just me, it's happened to many black people. We got visibility, but no substance. We were seen but not valued. We were seen but not hired, right? And it happens all the time. And these jobs were actually in diversity, equity, and inclusion, the field that is supposed to be about creating equity. And when you look at the statistics, it shows that 83.1% of diversity leadership jobs go to white people, and only 3.1% go to black people. So if you can see that even in a field that's supposed to be about equity and creating fairness, all the jobs still go to white people. What more in fields like plasma and physics and science, the discrimination and the barriers there is even higher. So that's what drives this talk, right? You have my personal journey, my friends' personal journeys. We can't sit back and watch. I have to do this wherever I can, wherever I possibly can. Because if the world knows that the ancient Egyptians and other several great ancient civilizations were black civilizations, and that these people, they birthed humanity and civilization itself. They taught us math and science and physics and everything. That's going to shatter the myth of white superiority.
Even young researchers believe this blending of culture and science will spark outstanding innovation.
Description of traditional fabrics being tied to hieroglyphics, the way that you showed fabrics that you grew up around or familiar to you, and also showing hieroglyphics right next to them, and seeing this kind of genealogical connection echoed through artwork. I thought that was just really cool to see, because I think it does reconstruct my perspective of when we think about ancient Egypt, when we think about the technology of ancient Egypt.
A senior researcher at the conference said these insights could help unlock solutions to plasma instabilities, long considered one of the biggest barriers to achieving continuous fusion energy.
I didn't know about the the religion being based in science. I've never seen someone levitated. I would like to see that in person.
Right.
Not because I don't believe it, just because I'd like to be a part and see it.
A powerful reminder that science does not exist in isolation, and that some of the most advanced solutions emerge from the world's oldest knowledge system, especially from Africa and Cameroon inclusive.